Hey there YouTube, this is SJM4306 and we have a package in basically. So obviously I've made a couple of videos modding my Switch and whatnot, and I've been actually using this pretty happily in the dock with my projector and my HD TV, and it works great. But one thing I'm worried about is number one, the front of the dock actually scratching the screen. I do have a like a tempered glass screen protector on, but I'd rather not risk even scratching that. I figured it would be time to actually swap the dock case, make maybe something smaller that I could actually use portably. So it's kind of a pain. This looks nice, honestly, sitting underneath your TV. And if I had more than one dock, I would leave one stock like this and have one that was more portable. But I only have one dock, unfortunately, the one that came with this Switch. And it has some problems as well in terms of, this is broken. The venting is pretty bad. I'm actually kind of surprised Nintendo kind of half-assed, thermal design and whatnot. So that's sort of meh. I've seen people cut like larger holes and put fans in there and whatnot, and even that seems sort of meh. So I figured I would buy a replacement dock case. Ordered it, and I'll have links down below to the seller or whatnot. And I got this guy. It's a much smaller dock, basically. All the electronics in here actually fit into here, as well as the USB mechanism that plugs into the Switch. And it just snaps together. I won't do that right now. It comes with some tools and some foam pads. Not quite sure what the foam pads are for exactly right now. Maybe the back or something like that to protect it. Molding seems pretty good though. Plastic quality seems pretty good as well. And I think this was like maybe $7 or $8, something like that. And hey, it even has a LED indicator for the one that's on the front of the original dock. So yeah, this is pretty much just pop it in, and it's supposed to be fairly simple. There are instructions, but we don't need instructions. We'll figure this out. So comparing the original dock, which covers like most of the Switch anyway, and I'm always worried about scratching it, versus just this much smaller unit. I would be a little worried about how stable this is. We don't really mess around with cords or anything near the TV, so we just set things up and kind of leave it there, so I'm not too worried about this getting knocked over. So yeah, anyway, we're just going to get right into it. I do have one of these really cool, this is not an ad, but 8BitDo makes a Bluetooth adapter basically for PlayStation controllers and whatnot. And I think it might be able to do Xbox and whatnot, so that you can use them to play Switch games on the big screen. And this I've been using a ton, and it works great. Absolutely love that. Anyway, we're just going to pop this open. There's just a bunch of screws, and pretty much these are tri-wings. And unscrew every screw that you see. So let's just get in on it. Okay, so I undid a bunch of screws, and the back half just pops right out. Here you can see the circuit board. There are a few clips holding it in. Just have to lightly pull them back, and it swings out just like this. And I'm just going to undo these ZIF connectors just to be really careful, make sure that I don't damage anything. And there is the connector for the LED on the front. So here's the actual board itself. We're just going to set this aside. Just a quick look. Basically all it is some power supply regulation for the USB ports and whatnot. USB-C connector input. There's some silicon for controlling, I'm guessing, the USB-C protocol for like power delivery. There is a 3.0 port and two 2.0 ports, so the 3.0 is probably going to have its own chipset, and HDMI out, so there's going to be a USB-C to HDMI bridge somewhere in here. You can see the connectors, the traces for the HDMI, which is shielded, nicely shielded, I like that, go over to this chip. So this chip's going to be the HDMI bridge. And yeah, other than that, it's a pretty small board. Just going to set that aside, and now we have a bunch of Phillips screws. So we're just going to go through same thing, removing all screws. Okay, and we can carefully thread the cables through. This is just the front half of the dock, and the very front is just kind of hollowish piece of plastic there. You can see the mechanism, the USB-C connector is kind of protected, and with this little piece here that fits in with these holes. So when you insert the dock, it exposes a USB connector. And for this, we just got 4 screws on the bottom. Okay, this guy just very carefully wiggles out. These springs are loose, obviously, so we're just going to want to not ping those off and lose them. It's a little dusty, so we'll clean it up a little bit, but just set this aside. Then we have this connector in here. Okay, well, the plastic, the light pipe bit kind of pulls out pretty easily, so maybe that was in the way. The entire base pops off, and that's what's holding the little tiny PCB in, and now it just comes right out. It's just a LED in there. Sorry about that. There you go. And that's it. Okay, so we're going to set this aside. Yeah, this is all just hollow. Just slides in. Interesting. So now, just taking a look at this, it just goes in the cable facing the front. Yep, that's why there's that cutout for the little nub that prevents you from putting the switch in backwards. So it can only go on the back there. And let's see, this kit does come with a couple screws. Make sure you got this lined up first before tightening them down. Otherwise you could damage the connector or the ZIF cable. Okay, and just snug is good enough for these. Let's just see how it fits. Yeah, fits. It's obviously less self-aligning because there's less plastic on the sides and whatnot to keep these switches straight when it's being inserted. So just have to probably be careful when you go to insert this, as well as might be a good idea to 3D print some kind of cap or something, or keep this covered so that dust doesn't get on the connector and whatnot. Anyway, from here we just have the board. We might need to get... okay. Made a little bit of an oopsie. We have to get this LED in place before we screw the dock in. Okay, so guessing this is just gonna kind of drop in place. The light pipe's over in the very corner, so we're gonna want the LED itself in the corner as well, I'm guessing. There's a little slot looking thing in there. Hopefully this just presses in. Yeah, it's a little finicky, but it does fit. There we go. Now, gonna want to make sure that the wires don't get stuck or trapped when we go to screw this in. Okay. Okay, I'm only going to put 2 screws in just for now, in case I need to undo it if this cord isn't long enough. Just let's do a dry fit. I believe it goes in like this. Yeah, the HDMI is over there. Yeah, there's plenty of room. It only needs to go right to here. Okay, yeah, so we can do the other screws. This is in. Seems good to me. And now, get this connector, and it is polarized, so it only goes in one direction. And just gonna get it in, just drops right in. That's actually a really good fit. It's snug. The cutouts are like the perfect size. They did a really good job molding this. I'm happy with that. Now this connector, the blue tab actually has to face up. So Might have to do some origami with the cable, but very carefully so that we don't actually damage it. So we're just going to fit it kind of underneath so it comes up like that. And that should be good enough. Before we screw down the board, I guess we should get that in. Very careful. They're very tiny fingers, contacts on there. Don't want to damage any of them. Fits in and snaps in assuredly. There we go. Now it's just 4 more screws, and I guess we're home. Now there is a screw post here, so want to make sure the wires don't get caught, and when you screw it down, there is a risk of wires getting pinched between the board and the standoff, but just keep that in mind, and we're good to go. And it looks like we're done pretty much. So now it's just a matter of popping this in. Uses like plastic retention clips in here, so it just literally snapped in. And there we go. This is our complete dock right now. So just, yeah, you need to kind of look. That is kind of the one big downfall of this. The original dock, you just sort of set it in and it self-centers and it fits pretty well. This one you have to actually look and try to align it good enough so that it goes dead center. And yeah, it is quite a bit wobbly there. Seems to fit pretty well. This is so light. Might actually open this and see if I can add some weights or something to it, because when you go to lift it up, the whole dock comes along with it. But yeah, other than that, seems to fit pretty well, and it looks quite a bit smaller. And like I said, this will be perfect for traveling. I probably will end up buying another dock that's in better condition, that doesn't have plastic tabs broken off on the back. So I'll buy a second-hand one and leave that at home, and this one can just go in my backpack. So yeah, anyway, I guess we ought to run a quick test, make sure the connectors we put back in correctly, and this actually works as a dock. So let's get this set up. Okay, so here we are. I have this plugged into the dock, and yeah, it's pretty much all good to go. Plugged in to the receiver so I can use my PS4 controller, and yeah, on my big screen TV, so we can just it's gonna be hard playing this with one hand, but yeah, you can just start this back up, and there we go. I just have Bloodstained running and works perfectly. So wow. So yeah, basically everything works. Not that I expected this not to. A few things, having the, if I just turn this off for a second and disconnect. So yeah, as I was saying, everything works out pretty well right now. I love being able to play Switch games on my PS4 controller. And we're all good to go. Dock's really nice, has the rubber feet on the bottom so it doesn't slide all over the place. And yeah, you can see I've been playing a lot of Bloodstained. Nearing the end of the game, actually. Anyway, I guess I'll take this back upstairs and we'll go through my final impressions on this and whatnot. Okay, yeah, so here we are. I saved all the screws and whatnot and roughly put this back together, so I'll keep this case just in case if I ever want to switch back. But yeah, I'll probably end up getting a second dock online if I can find one for pretty cheap. But yeah, all in all, I gotta say, the replacement dock looks pretty good, feels pretty nice. It's not a dirt cheap plastic, and it fits decently, other than the fact that, you know, the guiding mechanism's a little wobbly and whatnot, but I could live with that for how small the dock is. And yeah, so all in all, I gotta say I'm pretty happy with this. Definitely not perfect, but it'll suit my needs. So anyway, yeah, if you guys are interested, there are actually a number of replacement dock cases available on eBay. I'll put links down to like a general search. Or you can actually even 3D print your own case. So if you have a 3D printer and filament, and you can, do this for free basically. So yeah, anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this random quick-ish video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Quick addendum. I think I figured out what the foam pads are for. You actually put them on either side, and it doesn't help with alignment, but it makes it a lot more stable now. So yeah, that's what the foam's for. I was wondering because it didn't seem to fit anywhere else. But yeah, now it makes it a lot less wobbly. So yeah.